12 rock stars, all of them at the top. The crowds were selling out, the records were charting, and in most of these cases, the number one hit was still on the radio, and then they walked away. Not because the music broke them, not because the label dropped them, but because they chose to leave while the lights were still on. You know most of these songs. By the end of this, you're going to see them completely differently.
Now there's a way, and I know that
Number 10, Joe Perry, Aerosmith. July 28, 1979, Cleveland Municipal Stadium, the World Series of Rock Festival. Aerosmith is headlining alongside AC/DC, Ted Nugent, Journey, and Thin Lizzy. By any measure of that era, this is what being at the top looks like. And backstage, before the show is even over, something breaks that doesn't get fixed for 5 years. Here's the version most people know. The band was falling apart. The drugs were everywhere. Everything was unraveling. True. But what actually lit the fuse that night was a fight between Joe Perry's wife and bassist Tom Hamilton's wife. Words exchanged. A glass of milk thrown. By the time Perry came off stage, the situation had already collapsed. He called Tom Hamilton, said he was done. That was the last official word he gave the group. But here's what gets me. The fight was the match, not the fuel. Aerosmith in 1979 is sitting on Walk This Way, Sweet Emotion, Dream On. They are the American rock band, the version with actual teeth. Perry is the co-architect of all of it. The riffs, the swagger, the chemistry with Tyler that made every song feel like it was running slightly ahead of itself. He walks away from that, forms the Joe Perry Project, records albums, plays shows, and Aerosmith without him, they fell apart. Brad Whitford left in 1981. For 3 years, the band was a husk. The albums from that period are the ones you don't bring up to a serious Aerosmith. Tyler had a motorcycle accident, collapsed on stage in Portland. The thing they'd built together couldn't hold its shape without the two people who'd originally given it one. Perry rejoined in 1984, but the years between, the records they didn't make together, the tours that never happened, you don't get those back. They're just gone. If you've ever watched something you helped build start to crumble because the relationship broke before the work did, you know what that silence sounds like. Number 9, Peter Green, Fleetwood Mac. There is a version of music history where Peter Green gets discussed the way we talk about Jimi Hendrix or Robert Johnson, an absolute singular.
And bring it home to me.
Someone whose playing existed at a level that almost doesn't have a comparison. BB. King said Green had the sweetest tone he'd ever heard. Eric Clapton considered him a truly great player. And when Albatross hit number 1 on the UK singles chart in January 1969, Fleetwood Mac wasn't a band you'd stumble across. They were the real thing.
Love so bad.
This is the band Peter Green built. He co-founded it with Mick Fleetwood and John McVie. He wrote Black Magic Woman.
Oh, we can make everything all right.
You might know that song better through Santana's 1970 recording, but Green wrote it. He played it first.
Wanna stand up and tell me.
He had the tone Santana would spend years chasing. He also wrote Oh Well, one of the most structurally daring rock songs of its era, and he'd done all of this before the age of 26.
A soft voice that talk to.
By 1970, something had shifted inside him. It didn't happen overnight.
I need your love so.
During the band's European touring in 1969, accounts began to surface that something was wrong, that Green's behavior had changed, that certain experiences on the road had altered something fundamental.
To you to worry, baby. I know.
He started asking the band to give away their earnings. Not donate, give away. He wrote letters to promoters asking them to reduce his personal cut. He showed up differently. In May 1970, Green left Fleetwood Mac, walked away from the band he'd created, the music that was selling, the audience that loved him.
Need some lips to feel next.
He gave away much of what he'd earned. For years, he lived quietly, struggled, and largely disappeared from the music that had made him legendary.
Tell me that you love me and stop.
Here's the part of this story that sits with me. Fleetwood Mac went on to one of the great second chapters in rock history. Rumors, Stevie Nicks, the stadium tours.
Arms to hold and squeeze.
And Peter Green watched all of that from the outside. The band he named, the band he built, the band that carried his musical DNA in its structure. He never got to be part of that second chapter. He passed away in July 2020, at peace with music, finally, in his later years.
To you to worry, baby. I know.
But the distance between the exit and that peace, that's the chapter of this story that doesn't leave you.
Driving me mad. Oh,
Let's look at the numbers. Only 9% of you are actually subscribed. Honestly, that's tough to see. Our team spends days hunting down archives and verifying every single fact just to tell these stories right. If you've made it this far into the video, you're clearly part of the community, so please hit subscribe. It costs nothing and helps us immensely. Now, for those already subscribed, very few of you have made the jump to our membership, and that's a hard pill to swallow because you're the ones who know our value best. If this channel has moved you or inspired you, consider joining. It's the price of one coffee, but it's the literal fuel for this channel. Let's keep this alive together. Back to the story.
Number 8. John Lydon / Johnny Rotten, the Sex Pistols. January 14th, 1978. The Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco. The Sex Pistols play their final concert. And at the end of it, John Lydon, still Johnny Rotten on that stage, steps to the microphone, looks out at the crowd, and says, "Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?" And then he walks off stage. No farewell, no tearful last number, 7 words, and a door swinging shut behind him. To understand what that moment meant, you have to understand where the band was in January 1978. God Save the Queen had been released during Queen Elizabeth's Silver Jubilee in 1977, and it was such a lightning rod that the BBC refused to play. The official UK chart had it peaking at number 2, but there were credible claims at the time that the chart had been manipulated to keep it from the top spot it had actually earned. Never Mind the Bollocks had redefined what a rock album could be. The Sex Pistols had spent 2 years detonating every assumption the British music establishment had about who gets to make records, who gets to say what, and who gets to decide what rock and roll actually is. The American tour they were on when it ended, it was barely functional. Management chaos, internal fractures, a band unraveling in real time across cities that didn't quite know what to make of them. Lydon could see the circus for what it was, and he didn't want to be the clown. He walked, formed Public Image Limited, made music that sounded nothing like the Pistols, more experimental, deliberately difficult. The rest of the Pistols eventually regrouped, toured under the name, made money off the legacy. Lydon rejoined some of those reunions, but nothing he did after January 14, 1978 was as pure a statement as those 7 words. Whether he meant the audience had been cheated, or the band had, or he himself had, nobody's ever fully agreed. That ambiguity is exactly right. Sometimes the most honest thing you can say on the way out is a question, and sometimes that question is the only ending that fits. Number 7, Sting, The Police. Let me set the scene. 1983, Every Breath You Take has just spent 8 consecutive weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Synchronicity hits number 1 in both the US and the UK simultaneously. 3 Grammys that year, including Song of the Year. The final date of the Synchronicity tour closes at Shea Stadium, the same stadium where the Beatles played their last live show. Sting actually acknowledged it from the stage. The Police were, by any commercial measurement, the biggest band on earth, and Sting was already thinking about leaving. Here's what makes this story different from every other one on this list. It wasn't addiction. It wasn't fear. It wasn't a backstage blow-up or a philosophical breakdown. Sting dissolved the Police because he felt he'd run out of room inside that format. 3 musicians, that specific sound, those specific constraints, he felt them closing in. I don't think any grown man can be in a band, he later said. A band is a teenage gang. That sounds like arrogance, but there's something in it that's honest. The recognition that the version of himself that existed inside the Police had gone as far as it could go. And staying meant repeating rather than discovering. The band never formally dissolved. They went on indefinite hiatus in 1984. Everyone paying attention understood what that meant. And here's the part that adds a strange coda to the whole thing. In 2025, Andy Summers and Stuart Copeland sued Sting in London's High Court, claiming they were owed royalties from Every Breath You Take, that there had been an oral agreement to share songwriting income that was never honored. "40 years after the break, the wound is still open. Whether that lawsuit is about money or about the slow unraveling of something that was never fully resolved after 1984, I'll let you decide." Some people came with Sting into his solo career. A lot of people felt left behind. Walking away from Every Breath You Take takes a certain kind of nerve, or something else entirely. Number 6, Eddie Vedder, Pearl Jam. By 1993, Pearl Jam was the biggest rock band on earth, and I don't mean that loosely.
Chases them away, yeah.
10 had sold 10 million copies in the United States. When V's dropped in October 1993, it moved 950,000 copies in its first week, a new record for any artist at that point. Every promotional mechanism the industry had, MTV, radio rotation, major magazine cover, was lined up and ready to push them even further up the ladder. Pearl Jam turned it off. They stopped making music videos. They pulled back from radio promotion. They gave fewer and fewer interviews.
Maybe he'll see a little better Saturdays.
And in 1994, they made it structural. They filed a formal complaint with the Department of Justice alleging that Ticketmaster held a monopoly on concert venues. Making it effectively impossible for any major act to tour without routing money through a company that, they believed, was exploiting fans through service fees nobody had agreed to pay. They tried to tour independently. It nearly fractured the band. The venues they could access outside Ticketmaster were limited. The logistics were brutal. The tour struggled. Most bands at that point would have quietly walked the position back and gone back to the machine. Pearl Jam held the line. Eddie Vedder was the public face of all of it, the band member most visibly committed to dismantling the version of fame they'd been handed. Not because the music wasn't there, because the version of success that came attached to it felt like a trap with nice furniture. And here's the thing about that walk away. It worked. Pearl Jam is still here, 4 decades into a career, fiercely independent, still making records on their own terms. They figured out how to be enormous without belonging to the machinery that usually comes with enormous. That's not always how this story ends. Most of the ones on this list didn't get that resolution, but we're getting there. Number 5, David Lee Roth, Van Halen.
And I know, baby, just how you feel.
February 25th, 1984. Jump by Van Halen reaches number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It stays there for 5 weeks. The 1984 album has already sold millions of copies. Eddie Van Halen, by this point the most celebrated rock guitarist alive, is everywhere. And David Lee Roth, the acrobatics, the voice, the personality that made Van Halen feel like a spectacle every single night, is right at the top with him. Here's the fact that still hits me every time I come back to it. That was Van Halen's only number 1 on the Hot 100. Ever. 5 albums deep before Jump. 13 number 1s on the mainstream rock chart. Sold out arenas worldwide for a decade. And Jump, the one with the keyboard riff, the one Eddie had been trying to record for years while Roth kept saying no, was the one moment they just hit the actual summit of the pop chart. And Roth left the year after. Now, there's a version of this built around ego. 2 enormous personalities. 1 too many frontmen in the room. Creative tension that finally gave. And that's partially right. Roth had started working on a solo EP. He covered California Girls, and it became a hit. There were film projects, competing visions for what came next. But here's what actually stays with me about the timing. Roth left when he had nothing to complain about. No commercial setback. No critical rejection. No sign that the machine was slowing down. The tour is selling out. The record is at the top. By every measurement the music industry uses to define success, Van Halen in 1985 is it. And he walked away from the ceiling. Sammy Hagar came in. The band kept going. Different sound, still successful. Some fans adjusted, some didn't. You probably know which camp you landed in, and I'm guessing you still feel strongly about it. Number 4, John Fogerty, Creedence Clearwater Revival. Here's something about Creedence Clearwater Revival that doesn't get mentioned often enough. Despite being the biggest-selling American rock act of 1969, they never had a #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100. Proud Mary, Bad Moon Rising, Green River, Down on the Corner, Fortunate Son, every one of them climbed to the top and got stuck at number 2 multiple times. The most commercially successful rock band in America that year, and the top spot kept slipping by exactly one. John Fogerty wrote every single one of those songs, every word, every riff, and in return, Fantasy Records owned them. When CCR dissolved in 1972, Fogerty had signed away his publishing rights. Standard practice for young artists who didn't know better, catastrophic in hindsight. Saul Zaentz, who ran Fantasy Records, owned those songs. Every time Fortunate Son played anywhere, radio, a movie, a commercial, the royalties went to Zaentz, not to Fogerty, and so Fogerty made a decision. He would not perform CCR songs live. Not one, not Proud Mary, not Bad Moon Rising, nothing. For more than a decade. Think about what that silence actually meant. A man refusing to play his own songs in public because playing them meant putting money in the pocket of someone who had taken what was his. And then in 1985, it got even stranger. Fogerty released Centerfield, his commercial comeback, and the opening single, The Old Man Down the Road, was a massive hit. Zaentz listened to it and filed a $144 million lawsuit claiming that Fogerty had plagiarized a CCR song. The song Zaentz was claiming had been plagiarized, Run Through the Jungle, which John Fogerty had also written. He was being sued for plagiarizing himself. 2 songs, same author. I still can't fully process it. Fogerty brought his guitar to the trial, played both songs for the jury, and won in November 1988. The case eventually went to the Supreme Court on attorney's fees. Fogerty won that too, 9-0, in 1994, but the decade of silence first. The years of not playing his own songs, because playing them meant paying someone who had taken what was his. That kind of injustice doesn't just sit there quietly, it eats. Number 3, Roger Waters, Pink Floyd. Roger Waters wrote Another Brick in the Wall. He wrote, Wish You Were Here. He wrote Comfortably Numb, one of the most precisely constructed songs in rock history. A song that Gilmour's guitar solo elevated into something that still stops people cold when they hear it come on. Waters is, by any honest accounting, the primary creative engine behind Pink Floyd's most ambitious decade. And in December 1985, he sent his bandmates a letter, told them the band was over, and walked out. What happened after is one of the most bizarre legal and creative battles the industry has ever produced.
Behind you, no one told you when to run.
Waters assumed that without him, Pink Floyd couldn't continue. He believed, and said this publicly, that the band's identity was inseparable from his creative vision. Not just commercially, artistically, that it was him. And so in 1986, he took David Gilmour and Nick Mason to the High Court in London, seeking to legally dissolve the Pink Floyd partnership and prevent them from using the name he'd helped build. He lost. Gilmour and Mason made a momentary lapse of reason in 1987, then the division bell in 1994. Both went to number one. Both sold millions. And Roger Waters, the man who wrote the songs, conceived The Wall, arguably is Pink Floyd in the way we use that word about a single creative force, watched from the outside while the name continued without him until stadiums he no longer played. He later said he was wrong about the lawsuit. Of course I was. Who cares? That admission, years later, has a certain dignity. But the years between the courtroom and that admission, that's where the real story lives. Waters and Gilmour reunited briefly for Live 8 in 2005. A moment, not a resolution. The wound between them has never been described, by either of them, as healed. There's a specific kind of loneliness in building something that outlasts you. That keeps carrying your songs into rooms you no longer walk into. Roger Waters has been living inside that loneliness since 1985. Number 2, Robbie Robertson, The Band. November 25th, 1976. Thanksgiving night. The Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco, the same stage where Johnny Rotten would deliver his 7-word exit 14 months later. Maybe that room had some kind of resonance for endings. Maybe it's coincidence. I don't know. The band has assembled the most extraordinary collection of musical guests ever gathered for a farewell concert. Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, Van Morrison, Neil Young, Muddy Waters, Eric Clapton, Emmylou Harris, Martin Scorsese is filming it. The whole thing is too carefully constructed, too precisely orchestrated, to be anything other than what it is. A goodbye staged by someone who has thought about this for a very long time. Robbie Robertson called it the last waltz. The band's catalog, the weight, the night they drove Old Dixie down.
She said you like it now, but you'll learn to love it later.
Up on Cripple Creek had helped define a particular strand of American rock. Something rooted in history and mythology that felt genuinely different from everything happening around it. They'd been Bob Dylan's band before they were their own band. They'd helped catalyze some of the most important moments in rock history, and Robertson, the primary creative force among them, had decided that the road had taken everything it was going to take. He made the call for all of them. Lydon Helm, the band's drummer and the emotional center of everything they were, never fully forgave him. Helm went to his death in 2012, saying publicly that Robertson had taken credit he hadn't earned, made decisions that weren't his alone to make.
59 Chevy, laying in the backseat.
Ended something that didn't belong only to him. They had built it together. Robertson had ended it alone. If you've ever had to make a call that cost everyone around you, even when you believed it was right, even when you still believe it was right, you know something about what the last 4 decades of Robbie Robertson's life must have felt like. The documentary became one of the greatest concert films ever made. The other members eventually reformed under the band's name without Robertson. And Robbie Robertson spent the rest of his life being simultaneously celebrated for the beauty of that farewell and held responsible for the audacity of staging it. He died August 9, 2023.
59 Chevy, laying in the backseat.
Number 1, Cat Stevens.
But I'm happy.
In 1977, Cat Stevens was one of the most beloved singer-songwriters in the world. T for the Tillerman.
Now there's a way, and I know that
Teaser and the Firecat. Records that had sold in the millions, embedded so deeply in the culture that if you played them in a room with a stranger, the stranger already knew the words. Wild World, Father and Son, Peace Train.
At me, I am old, but I'm happy.
Songs people played at weddings and funerals and late nights when they didn't have language for what they were feeling and needed someone else's.
But your dreams may not.
And then he stopped. The year before, in 1976, Stevens was swimming off the coast of Malibu when a riptide pulled him out to sea. He couldn't get back. The current was too strong. And in that moment, in actual danger, unable to find the shore, he said out loud, to whoever might be listening, "Oh God, if you save me, I'll work for you." A wave carried him back.
Keeping all the things I knew inside. It's hard.
He spent the next year reading the Quran, studying Islam, sitting with what his promise meant and how to keep it. In December 1977, he converted. He changed his name to Yusuf Islam, and the following year, he auctioned his guitars for charity.
I could talk. I was ordered to listen.
Not put them in storage, not handed them to a friend, auctioned them, and walked away from an industry that was still selling his records, still playing his songs on the radio, still expecting more Cat Stevens to come.
If you want, you can marry. Look.
For nearly 25 years, there was silence on his end, but the music didn't know he was gone. Wild World kept playing.
I have to go away. I know.
Father and Son kept getting sung at moments of loss and separation all over the world. The songs had built a life of their own that didn't require him to be present. He came back, slowly, around 2006, recording as Yusuf.
Again, it's always been the same.
Eventually returning to the Cat Stevens name as well, performing again, making new music. He played Glastonbury.
But it's them they know, not me. Now there's a way.
He found a way to hold both identities at once. But those 25 years, 3 decades of his songs circling the world while he was somewhere else entirely, building a different kind of life, honoring a promise he made in the water off Malibu. That's what separates this from every other walkaway on this list.
I could talk. I was ordered to listen.
It wasn't a band dispute. It wasn't a contract war. It wasn't boredom or burnout or creative exhaustion. It was a man standing in the ocean, making a promise, and keeping it. The songs stayed. They always stay.